Today we're going to make a JavaScript function where, given a year, we return which century that year is in. So for example, the year 1855 is in the 19th century. So to understand this problem, we need to make sure we understand which year is in which century. So if we go back to the first century, the first 100-year period was the first century. So that was years 1 to 100. Of course, there's no year 0. It starts with year 1, goes to 100. The second 100 years was the second century, so years 101 to 200. So just like the year 100 is in the first century, we need to make sure we remember that the year 1900, for example, is in the 19th century. And the year 1901 then starts the 20th century. So as long as we understand that, this is a fairly easy coding problem here. So I've already created the function here, so we'll call it century, and it takes in a year. I've called the function down below here, century, and we put in the year 1855. So we can do this pretty much on one line, so there's no need for curly braces and no need for a return keyword, return statement. So it's all implied there. So we want to start out by taking the year and using the modulus function to find out if it's divisible evenly by 100. And the way to do that is to do year modulus 100, and if that is equal to 0, and we're going to use a ternary statement here, then, or ternary operator, I guess is the proper term, we go in, if it is divisible by 100, then we use the parseInt function to get a whole number. Okay, so if we take the year and we divide it by 100, then that gives us a whole number. Okay, so that would be for any number that can be evenly divisible by 100. Now, if it cannot be, then the other side of the ternary operator will give us what we need for that. So we're going to parseInt the year divided by 100. And that would normally give us a fraction or a float number, but because we're using parseInt, it will give us a whole number, an integer. So that should be all we need. Oh, then we add 1 to it in this case. So let's see if I can make sure that works right, and we can explain how that works. So if we put 1855, then that is part of the 19th century. So that did not fall into the first part of our ternary operator. It fell into the second part because it was not evenly divisible by 100. So it came over here and took the year, which was 1855, divided by 100, which is what, 18.55, I guess. But since it's giving us, returning an integer, it just gave us 18, okay? And then we had to add 1 to make sure it was in the right century. Okay, so if we go to 1800, now, that is evenly divisible by 100. So that should give us the 18th century, right? Because that's going in here. 1800 divided by 100 is 18. So that should work. Let's just try a couple more. So 1900 should be the 19th century, and here it is, 19th century. 1901 should put us into the 20th century, which it does. The year 2000 is still in the 20th century. So if we went to 2001, that should be in the 21st century, and it is. So that function seems to work properly and kind of dispels the notion that we entered the 21st century in the year 2000. We actually entered it in the year 2001. So thank you very much.